What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Dyad Reacts. We're here because Vanity Fair just released an article featuring Ahsoka, Din Djarin, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Andor, and we got lots of news pertaining to all of these shows and more. What's going on, Choco?
Us Star Wars fans are eating well right now. Like, this is kind of crazy. Like, if this is coming out the week before Celebration, what are we getting that Celebration? That's the real question. You know, I'm really excited. There was a lot of really interesting things that came out of this article. Lots of tidbits and stuff that make me super excited. Although it felt like people were focusing mostly on one little bit, but we'll talk about that when we get to it.
It always seems to be the case, right? Everyone gets some new news, some new articles, and there's something there that is mostly editorial from the publication, and then it's mixed with like an out of context quote from an interview, and then everyone latches onto that. So what's going on?
I think kind of it makes sense in the order of how these topics are introduced. Yeah, I mean, we'll just start up at the top. You know, the very first thing that they started talking about was Andor, which is awesome because we've gotten nothing. But the pictures look really good. This also leads me to believe that we might get a trailer, a sneak peek. I mean, we got to get something. They said it's coming out this summer, so we got the release date. But what jumped out at you about Andor?
I just loved how, first of all, Gilroy has done like the Bourne series. And it should give us an idea of how the story is going to unfold, what aspects they're going to concentrate on in terms of character work with Andor. And what jumped out at me with the information that they revealed was that it was going to be like a migrant story, like someone on the run from the Empire at the height of its power, and that is a relatable story that resonates with a lot of people, especially with Diego Luna, and it's a story that we haven't seen before from this kind of time period. It's always been about, you know, well, we have the Mandalorian, we have Book of Boba Fett. Those are kind of like isolated character stories, and you know, we never really got an intricate telling of how life was like with the Empire, and Bad Batch was like the beginning of that. We saw people living through like increased security with the chain codes being introduced, and it would be cool to see this in live action, and there may be some potential for some Bad Batch people to show up in this show as well.
Yeah, that's very true. It's cool. It talks about like his home as a child being destroyed, and that's what gets him on the run, which brings like, he's like, I was in this fight since I was 6 years old. And you're like, listen, 6-year-olds don't do much fighting, so this must be hardcore. But I love the concept of like seeing the radicalization of, you know, they're running until their backs are against the wall and they have to fight back. But I also like that we seem to be getting the opposite end of the spectrum as well. We're gonna find out what's going on in the Senate. You know, we got Mon Mothma is playing a much larger role than I possibly could have thought she was. I know. What do you think about that?
I think that's awesome because we only got like small snippets of this as well in like the Ahsoka book and comics that are around this time period. I think back in 2017, and you know, seeing a glimpse of how the rebellion got its start, you know, even in like the Revenge of the Sith deleted scenes, like the seeds were there, people were meeting behind closed doors, and it'll be cool to see not only the start of the rebellion, but like the process and the process of that politically with Mon Mothma, and it's great to see Genevieve O'Reilly come back.
Yeah, she was just perfect. Like when I saw her the first time, it was like, did they get a time machine? Like,
she is a perfect one to play the younger version of Mon Mothma, and I'm glad that she's like, given the trajectory that Lucasfilm has with all of their shows now, like it would make sense to move forward with her as they go forward in time.
Who knows? We might end up with like her in the when she's much older in the New Republic.
Oh man.
But yeah, I mean, the next thing that we got was just more tidbits on Mando. Obviously, the show has been out. We're getting to season 3, but we did get a little bit of a peek behind the curtain of its roots. Anything jumped out at you there?
Just how much kind of creative clash was going on between Favreau and Filoni. And they were coming at it from two different arenas, right? Filoni being, of course, the successor to George Lucas in terms of the visionary, but coming from the animated side, and Favreau coming from the technological film side, but also just having a general passion for Star Wars. And then, like, learning that they had both come into the pitch with their own kind of visions, and then they had to like mesh it all together, and just how much scrutiny there was around what Grogu would be. Like, I thought that, like, it was this grand vision that they had, and it was like brilliant from the start, but they like didn't even know it was going to be Yoda species. And when they did know, they were like, I don't know if, like, Filoni was like, I don't know if we should do that. Yoda is a little bit of a mystique kind of character, Yeah,
there's an old, like, there was the movie phone interview that George Lucas did with Hayden Christensen, where they even asked George about Yoda, and George is like, I don't know.
That's probably how he answered everything.
I honestly kind of believe it, though. I feel like even in his own mind, he like deliberately won't write it.
That's true. I mean,
like if someone finds an old napkin somewhere, they're like, we have the key to all this.
There's always the sentiment that Anakin's origin is never going to be revealed, and sometimes I joke that George just like doesn't know it and doesn't want to know it. Like, he doesn't want to write it because whatever he writes, someone's gonna be pissed. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But one of the things I also enjoyed is something I've been saying forever. It really, the origin of the project, being that Filoni had his idea for Mandalorian stories, and so did Favreau. But a lot of people forget. A lot of people will, when they like something, they say it's Lucasfilm and it's Dave and John, and if they don't like it, it's Disney and Kathleen Kennedy. When the truth of the matter is, Kennedy and Filoni are Lucasfilm, and Favreau came from Disney. On all the Disney, he kind of represents the Disney side of things. I always think that's fascinating. But I'm happy that Kennedy was able to put them together. We started getting some of this awesome content.
Yeah, it's it has turned into a monolith in and of itself. This Disney Plus show juggernaut that is moving on to Ahsoka next. That's the next one that's in like this kind of sandbox that they're in, this New Republic or pre-New Republic-esque type of machine. And I'm just glad that they were able to work together and create this thing, because like I'm looking at the article, and there's when he first had the idea Filoni, about a Mandalorian show, like George was like, they're pacifists in this time period, so there's not much of a story. And so it's interesting to think about the gymnastics that Filoni had to go through to kind of make a story out of it, because the story that we're getting is infinitely more interesting. I'm sorry to say to fans of the Lawless and the Mandalorian arc in Clone Wars, but it's infinitely more interesting because, like, the Night of 1,000 Tears, it's so tragic, and the story of how, after things went so swimmingly in season 7, they eventually still lost Mandalore, and it's interesting to think about the journey back to getting it back.
Yeah, agreed 100%. And I mean, I love the Lawless, but that's about Maul. That's not about Mandalore. It's also really cool because especially if you watch the behind the scenes of Clone Wars for those Mandalorian arcs, you understand that Dave really represents the canon side of things, but you can tell that John is a big fan of Legends. And Dave is aware of all that stuff, so it is cool to see some of that stuff getting married together. But next we got the one that's about to pop off, Obi-Wan.
Yeah, I'm super excited, man.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be crazy. I can't wait for us to do our review because we're gonna do it in person. The when it drops, that's just gonna be super excited.
We are gonna do a live reaction, straight from our B&B. Just gonna set up one camera, shoot it at us, and we're just gonna watch. And hopefully, you guys can like time that together with watching with us. But it's gonna be 2 episodes. I think the Thursday at midnight, I believe, right?
Yeah, I love the story. Some of these that we kind of know what's going on with them. They just give us these little behind the scenes stories, and I love the concept of like Ewan coming out in order to introduce the film at a big thing where they were just watching all the movies back to back, and then afterwards being like, "So, any chance you wanna give this another go?" And I'm so happy you did.
And everyone went crazy, and so like the excitement level for him returning, not only for him, but Hayden Christensen returning as well. And kind of reading this article, again, just more kind of interesting insight into like the development process and how much they ruminated on whether they should have a rematch or not. It was very interesting because a lot of times you'll talk to people who say, hey, these people don't really care about Star Wars, they don't care about the story impacts and everything, and they're here like spending months on whether or not they should have a rematch and what kind of story impact it's going to have on the originals, and you're like, they care.
You know what's funny though is it's always the opposite. Like, it's what you grew up with, you just naturally accept. Because I am, I mean, you and I are roughly the same age, so you may have had the same thing where you technically grew up with the re-releases of the original trilogy.
Yes.
Not necessarily the prequel trilogy. And so when the prequels did come out, I actually felt like episode 3 did kind of retcon their meaning because it made some of the dialogue not fully make sense. And so I have the exact opposite view where bringing them back allows them to bridge that. Obi-Wan once thought as you did. I need to see Obi-Wan entreat him to come back to the light. I want to see something similar. We had that amazing scene in the Vader 2017 run where he is bleeding the crystal and has a vision of coming back.
That's primarily where my sensibilities are. It's going to be a vision of like a rematch, but who knows? I don't think I'm ready to bet on another thing yet. Wait, maybe I think we did already, right? Yeah.
All I'm saying is that they had Hayden in the gym practicing fighting quite a bit, so we'll see. I thought this first little story was just adorable, of her being super excited, calling her friend whose kid like knows everything about Star Wars, FaceTiming them in full costume, and he's like, I can't even handle it. The next day he's like, I'm ready, and she's like, I'm not in costume, sorry bro, like that's hours to get ready.
The greatest teacher failure is, just like, what her friend said, is like, this will be a lesson for him to always be ready, because you don't know if you're going to get a second chance. And I would kill to be in that position first of all, to just know Rosario Dawson personally so that they'd FaceTime, but also to just have someone kind of like FaceTime me and in full costume and be like, yo, I'm playing Sabine. I'm like, holy crap.
It's kind of funny though, because and also we do have to bear in mind that this article is heavily editorialized, right?
Yes.
So there are direct quotes that they're getting from people, but there's a lot of just stuff that is being intuited that we don't necessarily know exactly where it's coming from or how reliable, especially once you get down a little bit later. But it seems to confirm that Rosario Dawson truly was fan casted. Like, that wasn't on anyone's radar until I think it was Junkie XL made a Photoshop, and somehow it got to Filoni. Like,
yeah, I mean that's one of the parts in the article that is editorialized, and it's not a full quote, but I'm assuming there's some truth in that it made its way to Filoni. And I'm pretty sure that's how it's going to happen with Thrawn. I truly think that Lars Mikkelsen is going to be Thrawn, and we're going to. I mean, we're gonna get from animation to live action a true Thrawn. I hate to say that. I'm not saying that like Ahsoka is not the true Ahsoka with Rosario Dawson. I'm just saying like it would be a true kind of like transition from animation to live action. But you know, just knowing she was a fan cast was just incredible.
And in fairness, it's difficult getting a voice actor to do the physical role because sometimes they may look completely different, be very different in age and all this stuff, in physicality. So yeah, having Lars would be an amazing get to have both. I also love the end part of Rosario jumping on unconfirmed rumors.
Yeah, I mean that's how most of it happens, right? Including with like Tom Holland as well. It's like you're just kind of reacting.
Yeah, she sees a post and Sky Guy, they know, see you soon, and then finds out later like, no, that was just a random person guessing. And she's like, yeah. So the next thing that they talked about was the Acolyte, but first we kind of get this controversy. Now, mention the Acolyte because I don't think this was, I think this was widely taken out of context personally, and I think this was meant as a lead-in to explain why we need the Acolyte.
So to keep minting fans, Lucasfilm must give new generations their own collection of characters to love and hate, and not every classic character can be brought back endlessly anyway. Kennedy is well aware of this now. In Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, Mark Hamill, 70, delivered performances as 30-something Luke Skywalker, but younger actors played Luke's body, while advanced deepfake technology replaced the face. Bringing Luke to life is now a team sport, but that tech has its limitations, so does recasting. The 2018 movie Solo explored Han Solo's younger years with Alden Ehrenreich, taking on the role of the smuggler originated by Harrison Ford. The film has its admirers, but it made less at the box office than any other live-action Star Wars movie. Solo's swagger may be too singular for another actor to replicate. There should be moments along the way when you learn something, quote, says Kennedy. Quote, now it does seem so abundantly clear that we can't do that, end quote. To endure, Star Wars will need new actors, new characters, and a new era, vaulting away from the timeline as we know it. Another upcoming series, The Acolyte, reportedly starring Amanda Stenberg, aims to do that. The show is in the casting phase, but the writing is largely complete, says showrunner Leslie Headland, co-creator of the time-looping Netflix show Russian Doll. She's been planning for it for 2 years, mostly from the confines of her home. Her dog and cat, who peek in curiously from the background of Zoom conversations, are certainly steeped in the concept of the galaxy's High Republic era. She says, but casual Star Wars fans who haven't been following the recent novels and comics might still be unaware.
It's that middle paragraph is what people are getting upset about. They read this headline and they see the now it does seem so abundantly clear that we can't do that, and think that that Alden Ehrenreich's performance is being blamed for the low box office numbers of Solo. Mm-hmm. Do you think that's what is being said?
Absolutely not. I think, well, starting from the editorial in the first paragraph, they're talking about, you know, the tech limitations of bringing Mark Hamill, 70, to play a 30-something Luke Skywalker, and they're talking about the limitations of it and recasting like a body. And, you know, then there's more editorial about how, you know, they couldn't replicate the swagger of Solo coming from Harrison Ford. And I think the quotes has largely to do with the fact that they can't keep doing that they can't keep on casting, you know, young bodies and deepfake technology and using deepfake technology to bring that stuff to life, because you can never replicate, you know, 100% the performance you got from the old movie, such as Luke Skywalker in his 30s when Mark Hamill himself is in his 70s. I don't think it has anything to do with Solo, considering the whole before the quote is all editorial.
Yeah, I mean, it says to keep minting new fans, Lucasfilm must give new generations their own collections of characters to love and to hate. Not every classic character can be brought back endlessly. All right, that first sentence is the lead to tell you what is going on, and then the third paragraph to endure, Star Wars will need new actors, new characters, and a new era, vaulting away from the timeline as we know it. Introducing the Acolyte. I didn't for a second think that this was aimed at Solo. This is them saying, yeah, we can't keep having elderly people. I love don't get me wrong, I love Mark Hamill. He is a treasure, and I would love to see him in possibly in different roles. You know what I mean? Like, you could toss him in the High Republic with a different character, you know, some alien character,
some better action.
I almost want to see him as Orba Lynn.
That too. There's a lot of roles in the High Republic that, I mean, Mark Hamill just plays everybody. You know, he was Bulio, he was a guy at the casino. He can do anybody.
Dude's got range. I mean, that's the long and short of the controversy. I don't believe it exists. And it's so weird to have such a long article with so many amazing things happening in it and to focus on one paragraph. And to me, it's, I say it's like a Rubik's Cube where you can like make one side look all the same colors. You know, that's like looking at one paragraph without the context of the greater article. And it can look like this, but every single piece of it is in the wrong place. You know, like, that's kind of how I see it. That may be too visual for people to get, but that's how I think.
Another thing that I wanted to bring up in regards to controversy and problematic editorial is this little blurb when talking about, you know, the movies with Kathleen Kennedy. It says, by the end of 2015, Han, Leia, and Luke were back on the big screen in J.J. Abrams' The Force Awakens, which introduced the Desert Scavenger Rey, the redemption-seeking Stormtrooper Finn, the X-Wing hotshot Poe Dameron, and the brooding Sith wannabe Kylo Ren. Rian Johnson's sequel, 2017's The Last Jedi, continued the Skywalker saga as it came to be known, but veered sharply from Abrams' vision and seemed to close off some central storylines. Abrams U-turned back when he returned for 2019's final chapter, The Rise of Skywalker, taking over 9, late in development. The movies all earned billions, but the zigzagging narrative was conspicuous. So this editorial right here is very problematic simply because it's wrong.
People act like J.J. Abrams wasn't like the executive producer and like Ryan wasn't sending him dailies.
Right, but also like just the language, because The Last Jedi didn't veer sharply from his vision, it continued from it. J.J. Abrams was the one who put Luke on the island, and J.J. Abrams also put the Resistance on the run from the First Order. The movie starts immediately after. So, you know, the editorial goes on to say they closed off some central storylines. No, it made some decisions to kind of be a little bit ambiguous about the language. You know, for example, spoiler alert if you haven't seen The Last Jedi, but spoiler alert, you know, they were nobody. They were filthy junk traders who sold you off for drinking money. That doesn't have to be the real answer to her parentage. It could be something that Kylo was being, you know, exaggerating with, you know. It didn't close off any central storylines. I don't think it did. And
no, Finn was in a coma at the end of
yeah.
Like, it ruined his arc. He was in a coma.
Yeah, I just don't believe that, like, you know, obviously there are some story decisions that I disagree with, and I have some criticisms about the editing, but like, I don't think that the narrative was zigzagging. Like, there was clear capitulations from fan feedback for certain concepts, but largely it went from one movie to the next kind of seamlessly, and that's largely due to its time period.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I think mostly like the narrative around the zigzagging like storytelling is mostly because what people were speculating didn't come to fruition.
Yeah.
that's what I find. But you know, that's why it's so beautiful to go into uncharted territory, because it keeps those predictions away, and you can actually tell your story, and that's what we're going to be getting, you know, here with the Acolyte. That's why they're saying, you know, we need new actors, new characters, and a new era. Now, I've been loving the High Republic. I am caught up on all of the novels, though I still haven't read Edge of Balance, the second one. I know it's all available digitally. I need to go back and grab that. But yeah, what jumps at you at the Acolyte? Because this has been my most anticipated, you know, project. We get a little bit more details on it.
Yeah, I made a video about it earlier, but the biggest detail is finally kind of the clarification on its timeline. We speculated the tail end of High Republic, which, you know, according to some books, that would make it 80 BBY at the very earliest. But Headland says that this is about 100 years before The Phantom Menace, which puts it squarely at 132 BBY, which only puts it around one story in canon, which is A Recipe for Death, which is a short story from Tales from the Galaxy Far, Far Away, A Journey to Force Awakens. And first of all, that story is kind of silly, but also you should read it. Have you read it?
I have not read that.
It's just to sell you on it. It is a kitchen nightmares / whodunit story that takes place in Maz Kanata's castle. It's very short. It's about like a 20-minute read. There's no characters in there that scream out at me that, of course, would be in the Acolyte. It's all about like a chef in Maz Kanata's castle. Now, of course, like long-lived people like Maz Kanata and Yoda and Oppo and Yariel and all of the long-lived characters in the Jedi, at least.
Sav Maligan, maybe?
Yeah, could be there. But since it is a generation removed from the phase 1 of the High Republic, which ends at 230, and a generation removed from the prequels, which is 32, there's no characters that seemingly, if they are not long-lived, connect into this. And so it is going to be a new character.
Not yet. I just say that because we're going back 150 years, and after that, are we going forward?
Well, yeah, that's true. However, what I mean is, like, if we don't have that character right now, right? So going from phase 1 of High Republic, if they are not long lived, they can't. It's 100 years. That's a whole generation. So
yeah, absolutely.
We can't like expect Keith Trennis, for example, to be the Acolyte, you know, unless she can live more than 130 years and still be well, who knows, maybe, I don't know. It's possible. It's a lot better than, it's a lot more believable than like 200 or 300 years, but still, it's a generation removed on both directions. And so I feel like Plagueis' master is the biggest suspect here.
Good old Tenebris.
Yeah,
we'll see. Of course, actually, and I believe Tenebris is canon, just not necessarily as Plagueis' master. So we'll have to see. It also describes the Acolyte as a mystery thriller. I know. I just like that. I just like a mystery thriller set in the sleek, glistening Republic, the Age of Enlightenment. Yeah,
the Renaissance, as they say. I'm just excited for this because, you know, the backdrop is the dark side, and we don't have any shows covering that.
Absolutely.
Like, not dedicated, at least. So I think if it is Plagueis' master, if it's Tenebris, or if it's just another Sith Lord that they're just gonna go with canon wise, because we don't have like you said, we don't have a canon master for Plagueis, and Tenebris is just an ancient Sith Lord that they used for the Sith troopers in 9. So we don't know. It could be Tenebris. It could be another Acolyte that they just completely make up as Plagueis' master.
Yeah. Another project that is on the horizon, Grammar Rodeo, which obviously isn't the real title, it's just a code name, which is referencing an episode of The Simpsons where Bart and his schoolmates steal a car and run away for a week. Yeah, it's a project being done by John Watts. What do you think of that? This is the first we've heard of this.
I don't know what to think. Simply because we have so little details about it. It's called Grammar Rodeo as the working title, but I'd probably have more speculation if that was the actual title. Like, interesting, a grammar rodeo in Star Wars. But I've enjoyed John Watts' work on Spider-Man. I don't know. I can't really foresee what he would be working on in terms of a Star Wars project. So it's largely up in the air for me. I'm actually more interested in Waititi's project. What he did with Thor Ragnarok was just so fun and inventive that you kind of want him to take that lens and be like, okay, now look at Star Wars and see what you could do here.
I'm hoping for Space Ferris Bueller. Yeah, mostly Space Ferris Bueller. That's what I'm hoping for. Maybe mix in a little Space Goonies. It could also include maybe a little test of courage. Something happens to the Jedi Masters, or there's an accident, they get separated, and just a bunch of kids that have to trek back and go through some life-changing things. Find a dead body. Sorry, I'm thinking stand by me now. I know what's wrong with me.
I mean, I told you, right? Like, you just have Grammar Rodeo, so your mind is kind of going, and it's taking wild leaps.
It's a rodeo, all right. That's for sure. But so that represents all the projects that it looks like would be going forward for Disney Plus. But Kenny also says about a roadmap, big screen return. And you had just mentioned Taika Waititi. I'm in agreement. He just has this fun sensibility where it's the stories are still meaningful and deep, but have this levity about them that just works. I'm still in the camp that he needs to do something with Taika. He needs to do something with Hondo Ohnaka, but that's just me.
No, that's also me. So it's not just you. I think like a smooth and slick pirate type of movie with Waititi is just kind of a gold mine waiting to happen. But I'm also kind of relieved at another quote from Kennedy, which is something that I've been saying for a long time. Everyone's been saying, really. And that is that they hesitate to use the word trilogies anymore. And that's because just from my point of view, trilogies don't work anymore. I think you kind of pigeonhole yourself in time constraints on how to tell a story, but going from
and I think we've known that for a long time, and that's why there are certain trilogies, but the last movie is part 1 and part 2.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's 4 movies.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's a trilogy.
And with the introduction of Disney Plus, they have the freedom and the creative license to tell stories that they want to tell. That's not within like, hey, do this in 3 movies or do this within 3 movies. And this kind of canvas lends to storytelling a lot better than 3-movie format or any other format, really. It makes sense that they do more anthology movies and tell longer stories drawn out over seasons rather than trying to. And I've been making this argument for the last 2 years. If they ever do a Old Republic, it's not going to be a trilogy. It's certainly not going to be 10, 20 movies, because that's just going to, like, I'm going to get old. And I want to I want to still be in my, Twilight years. I want it to be a TV show, the Old Republic TV show. I think with the success of the shows they've had thus far on Disney Plus, and with the looming success of Obi-Wan Kenobi, I think stories can exist in the TV space and tell epic and great stories for Star Wars.
I did want to go back on my Taika Waititi thoughts, because yes, I still want Hondo, but I want it to be a heist movie, a heist movie where we piece together a crew, and Hondo is just a member of that crew.
The leader of that is Maz Kanata.
Or that's who they have to rob.
Ooh.
So what we also got, so likely the Taika Waititi movie will be coming first. That was the exciting thing. And then they said Rogue Squadron. I know people have been speculating, like, will they, won't they, will they, won't they? And there's like a quick out and in, and people are expecting Patty to still fall out. But it seems like the Rogue Squadron will be the next one after that.
Yeah. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. It's been in development for a while now, but Patty has gotten busy with some other projects, and I believe it says also that Rian Johnson has kind of fallen out of his trilogy plans. It doesn't confirm. It's editorial that it's been backburnered, but in the quote it says that he's been extremely busy, or unbelievably busy, with Knives Out and the multi-movie deal he has with Netflix. And rightfully so. He's a great director, and he's gonna be super busy. So I don't see any direct quotes here that Rian Johnson's trilogy is canceled.
No. It's actually funny because I keep seeing articles on both sides. Some saying, "Oh, this article confirms it." Media literacy is very important. I think it should be taught in school all growing up, because of the prevalence of the internet and how people get news.
Yeah, and it also goes into our discussion about the word trilogies. With that quote, I hesitate to use the word trilogies anymore. I kind of feel like they want to give Rian Johnson, they want to give him the time to do this deal and get free so that he can make what he makes. And it's not going to be a trilogy. I feel like the old Rian Johnson trilogy has been backburnered, and the Rian Johnson movies is a go when he's free. And he's going to make the High Republic, but it's going to be a series of movies rather than a trilogy. I hope so.
I certainly hope so as well. Awesome. Well, that wraps it up. This was a long article. There was a lot of stuff to get through.
Chapters in the timeline.
It'll be, we'll be putting chapters and timelines. You can see our thoughts on things, and I'll probably take this apart to put on other platforms. Well, but as always, thank you guys for hanging out, for talking Star Wars with us. We love just talking with other fans, and it's the best. Super duper looking forward to Star Wars Celebration, where we get to do all of this stuff in person with you guys. But for everyone still here, please like, share, subscribe, comment, and do all the things. We certainly appreciate it. Absolutely. And if you haven't noticed, the channel is called Dyad in the Force now. We are officially making it official. We are Dyad in the Force. We would like to thank our channel members here. You can see in their respective wings. Do you think we should change it from Squadron 7 to like something in a Dyad? Choco, we'll probably discuss this. Yeah, we'll talk about that offline. I have some ideas. But thank you guys so much for being members of Dyad in the Force now. All of your contributions helps both of us now, and goes towards Dyad in the Force every week at 5 p.m. Pacific on Saturdays. Also check out Darth Choco on High Ground, and I believe when this goes live, it's going to be tonight. So tonight at 5:30 p.m. is Darth Choco's High Ground podcast. And do you have any kind of teasers for that? We will be talking some Rogue One, and we got a great crew to do that with. So I'm mostly excited to have Stardust M on it, but the others are cool too, I guess.
Awesome. Yeah, go check out Darth Choco at youtube.com/Darth Choco and High Ground Podcast tonight at 5:30 p.m. Pacific. But I believe that'll do it. That's the end. On to the next one.
For Light and for Life.
We are all the Republic.
And may the Force be with you.